Matthew Reyes is a young man from Crowley, Louisiana. He has always been known to be a little eccentric, as he had a peculiar gift for finding lost things. His strange ability wasn't just limited to picking up a misplaced pair of keys or a missing piece of jewelry, but he could even point out and find missing people themselves. For this reason, Matthew got quite the recognition and at times became the talk of the town for his unerring quality. This one instance, Matthew had gone to a community gathering, where one of the women had lost her golden bracelet. Matthew got up, motioning his hands to keep calm. Without asking a single question about the whole incident, he walked out to the field, bent over, and picked up something nestled in the grass. "My bracelet! How did you find it?" A question Matthew would often hear, but he always gave the same reply: "I'm just gifted." Sometimes, Matthew would end up recovering something very valuable or cherished, and the owners would be so grateful to him that they would insist he take a small reward. And after an awkward moment of hesitation, Matthew would accept the gift. But of course, that wouldn't be enough to sustain him and his family. Matthew didn't have any other job, and his only source of income was from the money that were at times awarded to him. But his ability also led him to pick up money that people sometimes mistakenly dropped onto the streets, although that wouldn't be much either. Despite all the praise and popularity he had among the community, at home his wife Claire wasn't so impressed nor at all happy with him. She was fed up of his irresponsible behavior. To her, all Matthew did was waste his time. In a way, it was true. Matthew struggled to make ends meet. The couple barely ever had enough money to put food on the table every day. And every time Matthew would walk through the front door of his house, his wife would start nagging as usual. "Did you bring the groceries?" "I brought you groceries a few days ago. You know our situation, you can at least try to make it work." "Instead of telling me to make it work, why don't you stop picking the ground for people's lost things and get a real job?" "I'm trying." "If you were trying, we wouldn't be in this situation. I just don't know what got into me that I agreed to marry a loser like you. I don't know why I bother coming home. You've made this house into a living hell." Every day would be the same. His wife would nag him, and Matthew would storm out in rage. His personal life might not have been going well, but soon Matthew found himself in great demand. The police began contacting him for help on their investigations, and Matthew agreed to assist for a small fee. The first time they'd ever call him was when an old woman had gone missing while she went out on a walk. "Mr. Reyes, we've had the whole crew search around the neighborhood and in the woods, but it's been almost a week and the woman can't be found anywhere. We haven't even found a trace. We have to go to the lake." "To the lake?" Confused, the police followed Matthew's lead, and only within a matter of hours did they discover the woman's body floating in the water. She must have fallen in when crossing the bridge and drowned. Thank you, Mr. Reyes. On another instance, a 13-year-old boy had run away from home. His parents searched everywhere, but hopeless, went to the police, who in turn went to Matthew. "He's not far. He's hiding." Matthew marched into the woods, followed by the team, and found the boy hiding out in a makeshift tent. For over 2 weeks, he had been stealing canned beans and stale bread from town, and escaped out here in rebellion against his parents. The boy had developed a rash from the poisonous plants and had become weak, but this time, at least the victim was alive. "You found our son. We thought we would never see him again. Thank you. Thank you so much. We don't know how to repay you for reuniting our family. Ask for anything, Mr. Reyes. We're obliged to reciprocate this great favor." "You're welcome, Mrs. Adams, but I can't accept anything in return. All I wish for is your family to be happy. And next time, don't run away, all right, buddy? You are truly a hero, Mr. Reyes." Matthew was enjoying all the appreciation in town, but the smile on his face disappeared as soon as he reached home. So you're spending all your time and money working for these people, and you don't even take your pay? How foolish a man can be! Some things you don't do for money, Claire. Even when we have nothing to put on our table, when we're living under a leaking roof, when the landlord might come knocking on our door any moment. I'll manage the rent. You won't manage anything. I've been with you for years. If you were such a hero, why haven't you gotten anywhere in your life? Leave everything else. You can't even afford to buy a dress or take me out one evening. You're the worst husband a woman can have. You're no man. You're just an incompetent loser. Just shut up. Shut up, Claire. Things were becoming a bit too hard for Matthew to digest. He was finding it difficult to control his temper, and instead of barging out, he felt like choking Claire to make her shut up. The arguments never met their end, and Matthew wished for the day Claire would just die in her misery. He dreamed of being a single man with no worries. He couldn't even remember why he had married her in the first place. If only she died, Matthew would collect her life insurance money and live comfortably for the rest of his days. Only then it would make up for the stress and pain. But as of now, things continued to be the same. It was one chilly night in October that Matthew got a call from the police. Rays, we need your help. An 18-year-old young woman has been missing for the past 3 days. Her father claims she took a speedboat out to the lake and didn't return. We had the crew search the lake, and we recovered the boat, which was severely damaged, but the girl, we couldn't find her anywhere. When another opportunity arose, Matthew smirked on the phone line. Why didn't you call me earlier? On that chilly autumn night, Matthew headed over to the lakeside, walking along the bank from side to side, shaking his head, while the police crew watched him anxiously. It had been an hour, and Matthew hadn't really been searching for anything. He kept pacing back and forth. The police began to assume this time he would fail. Rays, have you caught on to anything? I think we have to take the boat out. Finally, Matthew led the crew into a marshy, dense spot on the opposite side of the lake. There, the girl was floating in the murky water, her body tangled up in the plants and weeds, partially devoured. Turned out, the young woman had been recklessly driving the boat and had crashed, throwing her out onto the lake. Injuries proved she may have hit her head on a rock, knocking her unconscious. She then drowned in the waters, and her body was taken away by the currents until it became snagged up by the weeds and ended up in the marshy spot where fish and other animals got to her. We were wrong to doubt you this time. You really are gifted. We couldn't have found her without your help. Thanks to you, now her parents will at least be able to give her a decent burial. It was about midnight when Matthew returned home. However, this time, it was eerily silent. He stepped into his room to find Claire packing her bags. What are you doing? I'm leaving. You're not going anywhere. You will stay with me right here. Try to stop me. I can't tolerate this pathetic life anymore. I should have never married you. My father was right. You're nothing but a useless loser. Claire yelled, pulling the wedding ring out of her finger and throwing it at Matthew. Looking at the ring fall to the ground, Matthew had reached his breaking point. He remembered the years and years of his wife's horrible behavior, and all his anger boiled over. In a fit of rage, he attacked her. Claire tried to defend herself, but she was no match to him, and by the time Matthew came to his senses, Claire was lying on the floor, motionless. All of a sudden, every fear ran through his mind. Matthew didn't want to go to jail. He didn't want people to look down on him, but this was no time to panic. He needed to calm down and sort this out. Step 1, he would have to clean up, put her clothes back in her wardrobe, the suitcase in the closet. He arranged all the furniture and did the bed, making sure everything was absolutely normal. Nothing should seem suspicious. Step 2, it was 2 a.m., the perfect time to discard of her. He wrapped her body in a carpet and stuffed her in the boot of his car and drove out to the lake. As he thought no one was around, rolling the carpet out onto the dock, he loaded her onto one of the rowboats. He sailed out to the middle of the lake, where he watched her sink under. Suddenly, Matthew felt a sense of relief and contentment. He had finally rid himself of this toxic woman. She had been pulling him down ever since he married her. The currents would push her body further out. But of course, Matthew had to set up the scene right before leaving. He dropped her dress into the water. The police would find them and assume she drowned. Now, it was time for step 3. Go back home, relax, and pass the time till dawn. Around 6 a.m., he called the police. 911, what's the emergency? This is Matthew Reyes. My wife has gone missing. She left yesterday evening saying she planned a surprise visit to a friend on the opposite side of the lake, but it's dawn now and she's still not home. I don't know where she is. She's not picking up my calls. Please, I need help. The chief came down to his house to interview Matthew himself. When the clock hit midnight, I started to get worried, but I kept hope she would be back, but now I'm not sure. What if something terrible happened to her? Matthew said as tears filled his eyes. Don't worry so much, Reyes. I'm sure we'll find her safe and sound. Matthew had successfully pulled off the act. And the following day, he received a call from the police again. The chief was hesitant to talk at first. What is it, Chief? Have you found her? I'm sorry, Reyes, but we found her clothes in the lake. The signs are all leading us to assume perhaps she drowned. Matthew smirked as he let out a sigh and waited a moment. Are you there, Matthew? I know this is a tough time for you, but if you lend us a hand, maybe we'll be able to recover her body faster. Of course. This time, before he left, Matthew managed to fake dark circles under his eyes with Claire's makeup. He wore dirty, wrinkled clothes and didn't brush his hair to pull off how depressed he was. And that evening went down to the lake. There he met the police crew at the dock with their boats. He got on and led the officers to where her body must have drifted off. In the darkness, he turned on his flashlight to check the waters under him. He peeked over the boat, and as he expected, there it was. He saw a white, bloated hand waving back and forth in the currents. He even recognized the nail polish she was wearing. I found her. As the officers prepared to throw down the net, Matthew stared into the water, looking at her hand with a smirk. But all of a sudden, the hand shot out and got hold of his shirt. The hand pulled him below. He began thrashing and kicking, his arms splashing in the water, but he wasn't able to resist the pull from underneath. Hold on to the rod, take the life vest. The crew tried to get him out, but Matthew was dragged into the waters. Officers jumped in to save him, but they could no longer spot him. Eventually, backup was sent, and after hours, the police were able to fish out his body. However, they didn't just recover Matthew Reyes, but another cadaver. It was the white, bloated remains of his wife, clinging onto his body. Her bones could be seen, flesh tearing away from her body, but her arms wrapped tightly around his chest, her nails clawed into his flesh. Matthew had finally found his wife, or had his wife found him? If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe to my channel, and share this video with your friends and family.